I will. Exactly. You know me, right? Où ça non, mets-toi là. C'est mieux. J'en ai besoin. Pas grave.
Pourquoi Tu veux mon téléphone?
Non, mais...
Il est très bien.
Ouais, il est pas très bien. Ok.
Mais je crois qu'il est bien.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, excellencies, and distinguished guests. This session is focused on carbon credit industry. But before I start, let me thanks the Davos Lodge for welcoming us every year. It has been a wonderful partnership, thanks to Irini and her team. So thank you so much for having us. It's a fantastic lodge, and I encourage everyone to come to this place. We are going to be here together for about 45 minutes to talk about a complex industry, which is this carbon credit industry. And I'm delighted to have here with me Sir Awad Chamas, founder and CEO of Euro Golf Consulting. Thank you, Awad, for being with us. And Sir Hans-Peter Igler, I hope I pronounce your name properly, Senior Director, Public Sector, South Pole. So he's really witnessing this specific carbon emission every single day, I guess, from his position. But before we talk about scaling carbon industry, I would like to confront ourselves with a key question. Why did the trust collapse in the first place? Since carbon credit began and to scale, analysts, journalists, independent market advisors and watchdogs have estimated more than 10 billions of carbon credit that has never materialized into real reduction emission. This is obviously not all of this is linked to fraud, but it's fair to say that a significant portion of it have not translated into real climate impact. So this put carbon credit credibility losses on a scale, actually, given the financial impact, comparable to some major financial misleading and mis-selling scandals. But this one is even worse, because it's not just the unfortunate financial loss scandal, but it has also an impact on time against the climate race. So I would like to give you two examples to illustrate my propos here today. But for example, independent audit reports have found that large-scale offset programs who issued credit represented real impact outcome and no reductions of emission, despite the fact that they were fully certified and traded internationally. So you see the disconnect between the financial secondary market, I would say, and the real impact on the ground. A second example I want to try to share with you is one related to industrial and waste-related credit, which were approved for years, using self-report and weekend baseline, leading to hundreds of millions of dollars in credit, later downgraded, if not even invalidated, with zero clawback for the investors and very little accountability and liability for the issuers, right? So those consequences have been material, and not only the buy side lost a lot of money, but also they lost confidence in this corrupted industry, perceived corrupted industry at least, for those victims of that. Host country lost trust and credibility, and in addition to loss and credibility, any future investment as well, by definition. So communities lost faith on climate finance, which is, questioning the reality of that industry. Is it a real one or not? And what is really striking to me, and maybe you will shed some light on that, what is really striking to me is that everything has been done through the eyes of the regulators. And the regulators did not really act illegally. They act with insufficient tools, non-sophisticated tools, slow data collections, and high fragmentation oversight across multiple jurisdictions. So the big question of the day is that AI is presented as the solution. And one of the main questions I have for the panel is that will it restore trust and confidence, or will it simply automate failure faster and accelerate corruption? That's the real question. All right. So as I said, I'm going to leave the floor now to the two panelists and experts on that field next to me to try to briefly present themselves and then share their perspective on the collapse of the trust of the industry. Is it real or is it a myth? You don't have to believe what I just said as an introduction. So I'll start with you, Awad, first. Thank you very much, Awad.
Okay, thank you very much, Stephan. Let's be honest, the current system does not just tolerate low credit. It makes it profitable. We have created the rules where a credit can be certified, sold, and used before its actual quality is demonstrated. When the truth comes, the money is already gone, and non-irresponsible. It's not an accident. It's an architecture that prioritizes speed, volume, and market fluidity at the expense of integrity. As long as a regulator accepts self-reported data, spaced audit, and the absence of credit sanction, they will not correct the problem, they will institutionalize it. Today, integrity is optional, but liquidity is guaranteed.
Okay, don't forget to present yourself a little bit, please.
I am Awad Chamas, president of Aero Gulf Consulting. I work with the UAE and Arab country, Gulf country, and Africa. And I am vice president of School of Europe of Environment and Culture.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Xasa.
Yeah, thank you, Stephen. Hans-Peter Regler is my name, and good evening, everybody. It's a great pleasure to be with you here. It's, in a way, also my home base. I am from this region, so I'm very happy to be with you here. So I'm working now for 10 years in the South Pole Company, which is the biggest trader of carbon credits and biggest developer of carbon projects. I'm working there particularly with cities and sustainable infrastructure. And in my former life, I have managed a consulting company and a foundation, which we have developed a standard for sustainable and resilient infrastructure. And prior to that, I was a trade negotiator at the Swiss government and very much involved in sustainable trade promotion with countries on the south. I've visited all the continents and worked with a variety of countries all across the world, mainly on issues in relation to the Climate Convention, Biodiversity Convention, Basel Convention, WTO, ILO, and so on and so forth. So all this experience, I would like to now put a slightly different view on the carbon credits market. Yes, the carbon credit market has had a height in 21 and has declined quite substantially. But the signs we saw in 25 really are encouraging. There is a stronger demand. There is also a stronger engagement in developing carbon projects. There is a very strong engagement in the setup of the credit system, in the governance of the credit systems. stronger and more solid standards, and rating companies that are rating the project, so people can check whether the rating is compliant with their intentions. Then we have more solid credit systems, in a sense that one tries to really show gross benefits, additional benefits, not only in climate, so additional benefits. All this is increasing the price, but the companies are willing to invest in high quality, standardized projects, preferably also with a link to governmental regulations, so that the market is stronger, more solid, more transparent, and allows also higher prices. That was what goes all with such a development. And we see first signs of recovery of the market, and I'm really happy to see that this market that could really also support development a lot in countries in the south is a bit recovering, and the confidence is regaining globally.
Thank you very much for your observation, both of you. I guess the question maybe I would like to try to ask on that specific topic is that, as you rightly pointed out, there has been a sharp decline. Okay, so the fact that there is a rebound is a great news, but the sharp decline is the point I wanted to try to address in the first place before we go further, because there is always this risk of future bubble, and that's, you're clear. Where I spent 20 years of my life, we were solicited, I shall say, in 2016, very early on, to try to create a carbon trading platform. And it was impossible to achieve. And the reason why it was impossible was that there was no harmonization, no norms. There was no ability to actually mobilize a contract and then to create a secondary market where this contract could be traded, right? So we really felt that the conditions to make it fully Euroclearable and settleable were not there. And still today, Euroclear is still not on the game. But now, if we put that aside, then the question that was a bit of a challenge is that sometimes, because you don't have harmonized rules and regulation across jurisdictions, right? And as you rightly said, regulators just cope with what is there unless you have a dramatic issues. That also create that challenge of having certified project, certified credit carbon related project, and tradable in the international marketplace, and yet they have not delivered on their promises. So the question I have is that, do you think that this peak was just a natural evolution of a market, or do you think that there were some fundamental things that needed to be fixed? And then that would lead to my second question of the panel, which is, will AI be a game changer? and will it restore, or not even need to restore, but build on the, as you said, 2025 pickup to create even more environmental integrity and a stronger framework? Or will that worsen the situation? So maybe, Hans, as you were very positive on the first question of trust, I think it's very interesting to hear your point on that.
So what I can say is that obviously this loss of confidence in the market for these carbon credits forced the standards to really reassess their approaches, to take all this into consideration, and to establish a market where you also have these ratings, so where you get not only verified, certified, but you get them also rated by an external rating agency. And this helps to cluster same risks and ratings and allow platforms to be established and across different, let's say, jurisdictions, because in the end it's whether the project's risks and benefits are correspond to each other, and then you can trade them, right? And in that we have done quite an evolution in the whole setup of these systems. And then also I have to admit that a lot of projects, you know, they were focused on the climate element and not so much on the structure of the project, of the monitoring of the project, because in the end it's a whole project structure that has to be in place, that has to be monitored, that has to be supported maybe also, to really keep this going, to come up with the results required. And I think this was the weakest point, that these projects were not monitored and established holistically, but focused on only one element. And this weakened the whole setup of a project. And now this has been recognized and taken into consideration. So the market now has to build up again with more solid project pipeline. The project pipeline is not yet there, so projects have to be developed that correspond to the high standards, high demands, and are able to be certified and also rated accordingly. And this gives a totally different structure into the whole system. But we have to work on it. To establish a strong carbon project needs time. That's not something you do from day one to day two. It's something you need months and years to be established. So we have to be a little bit more patient and have credible approaches and count on them and follow them and have a transparent discussion also on the content and the results.
Thank you so much. And with this background of more harmonization, more, let's say, cross jurisdictions framework, the question I have is that, you know, question of transparency and things like that. There is always a feeling of a double-edged sword with the AI. So what is your view on AI? I mean, would that help some people to actually take advantage of the weak points of this framework that we tried to create? Or will it, you know, you feel confident that actually AI is a great tool to actually monitor, measure, control, provide transparency in a way that avoids the crack that we had a couple of years ago?
Yes, I have two elements which are key for future development. I think one element is blockchain technology. That's very important to take this on board and to weave this all in. So blockchain is a key element. The other one is certainly AI for the development of projects, for the monitoring, the verification, for every step, because we need to work more on it, but we can not work without the necessary instruments, and artificial intelligence is really one of the primary elements we would need to and use correctly. I mean, we have to also to know how to use it. We have to be able to critically use it, not just follow. So we have to have a very thought-through approach in using them, these technologies, and I'm pretty convinced that this is the way to go in the future and to make use of it, because we have to make a much more liquid market in it. And how else can you do this than with the latest technologies available, and that's AI technologies associated.
Thank you. Awad?
Yes, yes, AI can expose frauds that humans don't see. But when used without safeguards, it becomes a very sophisticated smoke screen. An opaque model does not suppress fraud. It moves it behind algorithms that neither state nor local community can challenge. When complexity replaces transparency, governance disperses. And in this case, it does not improve integrity, it makes it legality inalienable. A coded fraud remains a fraud. It's just harder to prove.
Okay. Thank you. Okay, but one of the science of AI, so different than blockchain, obviously, yeah? But one of the science of AI is to actually look at it from a existing data set. AI doesn't look predictability, it doesn't look ahead, it just look at what it can collect, and as you rightly said, you kind of make him collect whatever you want. In a way, the role of the regulators and the country leaders are very important. But there is a little bit of a tendency to push AI to say what you really want it to say. And as you rightly said, to make it a smoke screen and so it's a little bit of a controversial tool to me, because you don't want to actually look at it eyes closed and to trust its output. Blockchain is clearly can support the track record of transparency by contract, smart contract, and the like, and that's very helpful, assuming that you can enforce those different contracts, and that we saw some unfortunate events also on the blockchain front, despite the fact that it was developed and sold even in this beautiful country as the most trustworthy market infrastructure. It carries some of its own risk, but at the same time, I think that we might be able to impose some standards in the world of AI, and potentially, if we agree on the base, we can use the same base, and as long as that base is recognized, then you could assume that at least within this limited scope, the outcome of what AI will produce could be beneficial for that industry. That's maybe that's another way to look at it, right? But as I said, if you leave it, or rather, as you said, Hans, if we leave it as a free flow tool, it might go in many different directions, and that as humans are a little bit lazy, we might believe in what we want to actually see out of it, right? That's the risk. All right, let me move to my third question, and this relates to the future. Talking about the future, if we put ourselves in 2030, so we said that we went through a bubble and then we are back in 2025. But if we look ahead, what would be your? I guess I know a little bit, hence your answer based on what you said earlier. But nonetheless, I'm quite interested to hear if you believe that this carbon credit industry is something that is going to develop in a mature and constructive way, which will lead to real material climate impact, because at the end of the day, this is what we want. So by 2030, are you a optimistic person or are you a pessimistic person? And if you are one of the two, why would you defend that position?
Yeah, I'm very optimistic on that front, because I think for the time being there is no other approach we can imagine, and only the fact that thanks to that approach we are able to combat two major challenges in the world: climate and poverty. So that's already a very good conjunction. And if we work on that with strong and I would say also more governmental involvement, to have coherent approaches, not too complex approaches, because then we also won't be able to develop the mass that is needed. We need a mass of projects that this is really a market that is evolving. And to know the tendency of this decline has been that the focus has been on credits issued in Europe instead of countries in the south. So there is a lot to be done in the countries in the south. Another area that is blank so far is in the Western Hemisphere, where currently this market is inexistent, so to say, or has declined very much. But there, I hope that in the future this will again regain momentum, so that this market can be a global market again. We have Australia, we have Europe. There it's really progressing. We see positive signs, and thanks to this double result, win-win situation approach, I think there is a lot of potential there. But we have to be very strong. We have to make a good follow-up. We have to use all the technologies, but we can't not blindly use them. We have to know how to use, why to use, and in which moment to use. And we can only do this with the right knowledge, with the right patience, and with the right instruments. And instruments, as I said, there is a monitoring process that has to be established, a good verification, excellent certification, and the very best rating systems, which is delivering transparent results and can put the projects at their stage from AAA, maybe also once to BBB or to just BB, whatever. But this has to be a real market, a reliable market. The investor can really be sure that the communicated results are also achieved.
I have to say I really like your optimism. I mean, it's encouraging. It's really reconforting as well. The only thing I'm saying is that it's a little bit like ESG in my experience, is that I've seen a lot of consultants and a lot of law firms making a significant amount of money. And as I just mentioned in my introduction note, some of those projects have led to downgrade instruments or even unreceivable ones. So I'm always a little bit careful of being too optimistic, because sometimes I see some people taking advantage of that path. But Awad, your view?
I am optimistic and positive too, but if in authority, I am positive and optimist too, but if an authority cannot audit a system, it should not allow it. We don't need more text. We need a very simple red line, no verifiable model, no credit. Without auditability, talking about applying the rules is an illusion. Regulation becomes decorative, and the market does what it wants. Regulation that cannot be enforced, is not regulation, it is guarantee.
Okay, thank you. No, thank you, Awad. You know, you mentioned something that for me is very important. Although I am, as I mentioned earlier to Hans, I'm an engineer from the Polytechnic School of Lausanne. So by definition, engineers they like to play with tools and all those different technical evolutions that the world is creating. I'm not denying the beauty of what we are trying to achieve, and sometimes that we use that to lead to the moon and to the space. So I'm not going to be black and white on that one. However, I'll say specifically on climate impact and on carbon and carbon credit, there is nothing better than just taking a transportation. I would not say a plane, but taking a transportation and going on the other side of the world to see if actually between humans we see the positive impact of what we are trying to achieve. And I am a bit afraid that all these technology, going back to your earlier reference to a smoke screen, is going to put the West behind screen to try to understand what's going on in the South without even taking the time to go and meet real people and see if poverty is getting improved or actually the South Pole is not faster deteriorating, right? So yeah, you can use satellite, you can use a lot of technology, but as we know these days, you don't even have always the ability to trust the image, which even 20 years ago, we didn't even question the quality of the image. You saw an image, you say, okay, that has happened. I mean, if it's on the screen, it did happen. If you see the same image 10 times, you say, it's really, really happened, right? Today, you can have thousands of the exact same image, and you have no idea if this image is real. So I am afraid that we are going to see super green forest and super green people getting out of poverty. And as long as nobody crosses the border, reality might be different. So I just wanted to ask you to leave the audience with one last thought, like a little bit of a fire chat type of answer. But what would be the main message that you want to leave to the audience tonight?
I have only 2 words, or 3 words. Don't give up the fight. No, I think what is important is to see that, or to understand that the whole problem, the whole challenge will continue. So we will be fighting for more resilience in housing, in production, in all our value chains. It's a huge challenge we are all having ahead of us. And this challenge will force us to become more devoted to find good solutions, transparent solutions, solutions we all can also count on, can invest on. We need security for investments, and therefore we all have to fight and put all our efforts to a solid system in this credit market, which is not the only solution, but one of the solutions.
Fantastic. Last word for you, Awad?
Good. 3 words. It's less but real. Because trust will not come from better communication, but from real synchronized consequences. If a loan is suspended in Nairobi, it must be suspended in Brussels and Dubai immediately. As long as invalid credit continue to circulate in some jurisdiction, the entire market is contaminated. The only credible solution is to align sanction, not just standard. Without this alignment, the project would not have to move forward.
Thank you very much. So let me try to wrap up this panel the best I can. If I'm right, we have a tremendous opportunity ahead of us to align technology, incentives, regulatory framework, and governance in order to, for me, still a little bit needed, coming from my background, to restore integrity and confidence for the in the eyes of international investors community. It remains a little bit an imperative to me. But we must remain mindful, as I said, of the potential pitfall. That's not the only industry that is facing the same challenges, but that's a reality. So in short, tomorrow's approach, if I want to be as optimistic as Hans, will not be about producing more carbon credit, but it will be about producing better ones.
Yes.
All right. Thank you very much. If the audience wants to fight one questions to the panelists, please, very happy to do so.
How do you see like CCUS? It's fine, it's fine. On a CCUS, like carbon capture, utilization, storage, and how do you, any thoughts on that or any practical solutions coming in near future? Like I'm talking on the intersection of gasification, hydrogen, SAF, eSAF, CO2, and getting, or like any practicals that are any investments that you are seeing that are going in the right direction, like in that space, because we see a lot of stories where things are not working, but where things are working.
Yes, I mean, precisely these credits have been strengthened and have had a slight, I would say, increasement. That shows that the demand is here, but we have to see also they are very expensive. To establish all this, it's expensive. It's something that primarily countries in Europe might invest, or cities particularly these areas might invest in this to test this all, and it's working also in Switzerland, also doing that. So there are examples that are working. We can't, it's a bit, we are in infant industries now, and you can't expect the final brilliant solution at first stage. It is a learning process, and we have also to be a bit patient in that. But the market is slightly growing, and these are the most expensive credits currently. And what we have seen there, 25 was an increase in the trade of these credits.
And I will add to this, because I fully agree, I will add to this that this is a sign of maturity. I would say, okay, if the industry would have not been able to rebound after the collapse, and trust would have been completely lost, then we would not talk about carbon credit anymore, right? So the fact that now people are looking at it across different fields to make it more robust and more trustworthy brings cost, but also brings impact. Because that's at these cross junctions that you can really accelerate impact. And I think we are moving to this next wave. Yes, please.
Yes, so my name is Monia. I'm with CBZ, which is a Zimbabwe financial institution. I'm really curious what advice you'd give to us as a country. I know you're spending some time there, but one of the challenges I know has always come up is the collection of data, right? And so the worry I have is you've got the collection of data. We know that the carbon credits challenge is more significant in emerging markets. Africa is more impacted by that because of all the climate change, resilience issues. Then you add another layer, which is AI, right? And I've always argued that for us in emerging markets, we are more consumers than creators of some of these solutions. So what advice would you give, given the data issues around carbon credits, and then now you overlay some of the AI challenges?
Well, I can share my experience when I was at Euroclear. It's very fair. It's that the challenge, especially in AI, but as I said, it's not just AI. It's, when people trying to do predictability or anything of that sort, they look at a set of data they have in the current ecosystem, and if you only are half blind, then you are forecasting half of the truth, and sometimes you are going into the wrong directions just for the sake of it. So I think it's not just it's a little bit like reinforced carbon credit across multiple product line, but here it's in the scale of data, and that's leading a little bit towards what I said. It's not specific to this carbon credit industry. We have a serious data collection problem around the world, right? And so will we be able to actually collect intelligent data on very specific outcome that we want to see as a KPI impact by using multiple sources of data that are not human-based? Today, if you don't upload data in a database, you don't have data. So if you upload bad data, then you exploit bad data, and everybody takes decision on that bad data set. Okay, and that's dramatic. So the whole question for me, the whole challenges, and Switzerland is very good at that. The École Polytechnique of those two schools, by the way, are very keen on doing that. It's to try to leverage satellite data, drone data, and so forth. So a multiple set of data that human were not able to collect properly until now. Now, if you have a drone that has the ability to actually measure and collect and bring that back, you increase your data set significantly. If you rely on the whatever you currently have, it's very difficult. So I'm going to maybe close my remark on that stretch, but I think that mobile technology has embraced Africa faster than anywhere around the world. And I think that because you don't have the infrastructure that we have in Europe, in Europe you could say you don't need a drone to collect data because you have so many data points with the entire infrastructure that we have. If it's not road, it's electricity. If it's not electricity, it's everything, right? So we have mobile, everything, right? So we are already fully equipped. So this data set with which we work is much higher than what you can collect in Africa, right? But tomorrow, with this type of new technology, then you can actually leapfrog the challenge of data collection. And that's really, I think, something that we need to try to think a little bit about to modernize the way we are looking at the problematic of data. I would certainly not copy Europe to try to actually get inspired on what we should do in Africa, but I would leapfrog it like we did with mobile technology.
Carbon market, they're too permissive. If we accept smaller, slower, and demanding markets, they will work. If we continue to focus on volume, they will destroy the arrows.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Hans. Thank you, Awad, for being with me on that panel about the carbon credit industry and for your beautiful insight on that topic. And I'm looking forward for 2030, to try to see if we were right or wrong and how this industry has evolved. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.